According to Harvard law professor Larry Lessig, the group of Republican electors that are attempting to stop Donald Trump from becoming president on December 19th have passed the halfway mark to the 37 that they need to get together to actually stop him in the Electoral College. Now, that doesn't mean that he couldn't still become president, and it's still an incredible long shot, but they have apparently passed that point. Larry Lessig said this on MSNBC, surveying the three groups that are supporting Republican electors, of which he is one, providing legal advice to them. We believe there are 20 right now. Some tell me the number is higher than that. It should be more like 30, but I feel confident in saying there's at least 20. And then in terms of the rationale for why they might turn against Donald Trump, why this group might try to stop him, he said, obviously, whether an elector ultimately votes his or her conscience will depend in part upon whether there are enough doing the same. We now believe there are more than half the number needed to change the result, seriously considering making that vote. He also said electors have an ethical, moral obligation once they take the pledge to vote with their state unless there is an overriding moral reason not to vote that way. The failure of a candidate to live up to the qualifications would be one such reason. And he specifically cited that if there is a belief that they won the election through the assistance of a foreign government, or if they had lingering business interests that will be heavily impacted by foreign governments and could provide sort of a conflicting set of incentives to what he does as president, all of those are potentially reasons that Larry Lessig believes that electors could not vote for the person their state went for. Now, the problem with this, before we get into our commentary, is that only a few voters have publicly said they will not back the results of their home states, and virtually every GOP elector reached by the Hill said they will vote enthusiastically for Trump. So only one or two are publicly stating that they will not, but more, several dozen, are saying behind the scenes that they might be against him.
Second problem with this is that if they get their way, it's not like Hillary Clinton becomes president.
Yeah.
I don't know if you think that's the problem or the solution. It would then go to Congress. If there's not 270 electors voting for one person, it goes to Congress, and they vote by state. There's a lot more Republican states than there are Democratic states. You might think that's an unfair way of doing it, but that's our system. So you will have a Republican president either way. So what these electors are trying to do is to say, hey, I got it. Republicans won the election. No problem. It's just this guy is dangerous and in violation of the Constitution, so he should be another Republican. In fact, the one Republican who came out publicly as an elector and said he will not vote for Trump is saying John Kasich.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, if it goes to Congress, the Republicans might put Trump in anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a complicated situation. There would be a lot of popular pressure. I mean, you know, not as many people voted for him as voted for the Democrat, but there's still a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump, and they would want him to be president. It's something like 26% of the country cast a vote for him. Isn't it weird how that works in a democracy? And of course, they would put a lot of pressure on the Republicans who, for the most part, they hate those Republicans more than they even distrust the rest of government, and some of which distrust Trump. But there is theoretically the opportunity that they could choose someone else. I mean, they might find various other Republicans easier to work with, more in line with, you know, what they want to accomplish. And a lot of the Republicans in the House and in the Senate, while they are tools for big business and their donors and things like that, a lot of them don't want a madman in the White House either, even if he agrees with them on some core conservative goals. I'm sure they would like someone who is I'm not saying Marco Rubio, but someone more like a Marco Rubio, someone who's a little bit easier to control, isn't going to bring in these crazy outside forces into positions of power. So it's not impossible, it's just extremely unlikely.
Right. Well, you have a slightly kinder view of Republicans than I do. So I'm sure that they would prefer many other people to Donald Trump, a lot of them, so I agree with you on that. But I think at the end of the day, they will do exactly as they're told, which then leads to an interesting situation here because remember, the Republican Party behind the scenes is not united here. The Rex Tillerson pick for Secretary of State makes the oil companies happy, makes a lot of the Republican donors happy, but it makes other donors unhappy.
Yeah.
So the defense contractors not happy. They are against the Tillerson pick. Mm-hmm. Now, on the other hand, they got a lot of generals in the cabinet who, you know, funnel through the defense contractors. And there are many different lobbies. The Koch industries and the Koch brothers never supported Donald Trump. So they're waiting in the wings. So the Republican Party is one of general, almost complete bribery. You know, Democratic Party is not that different. It's not just a little less bribed than the Republicans. There's almost no Republican politicians left at the national level who won't do exactly as their donors tell them to do. So if there are other donors that are going around to the electors going, hey, big guy, remember, I got more money than the guys who bribed Trump. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe, right? And then if it went to Congress, then it would be a bribe fest. Okay, I'm just keeping it real with you guys. And then let the biggest donor win. And they would go around buying off every politician you could imagine.
Writing checks on the floor of the House.
Yeah, so that's your best case scenario. Okay, now what do I think of this maneuver? Well, I am conflicted on it. So on the one hand, I think you got to have a great reason to overturn the vote. And so their reason is...
Well, not the vote. To overturn the result of the Electoral College up until that point. Not the actual vote, because the vote went against him by 2.8 million votes.
The popular vote did. That's right. But this is our system, okay? So now, do I think, there's foreign involvement in our election is good enough reason? No, I don't. Because if the Russians hacked the vote, then of course you can't. Then the electors have a responsibility to vote the right way, which is not necessarily the way that the hacked vote came out. But there is no evidence of that, and I've investigated it, and it looks like there's no way in the world we can get evidence in enough time. So, because what the secretaries of states of the different states will have to allow computer scientists to come examine their apparatus, which they're not going to do, and they're certainly not going to do by December 19th. I think they should do that, but they won't. So you're not going to find out if they hacked anything. If you're saying, well, the Russians did propaganda, yeah, welcome to the world. So I know they did, and we do propaganda in many other countries. Are we going to invalidate every Latin American country because the U.S. is doing, and their democracies and their election results because the U.S. is doing propaganda?
No, if that was all that it was, no, of course not. But of course, it's that it wasn't like he was simply there doing his damnedest to get core conservative principles across, and then totally disconnected from him, a dictator was trying to influence the vote. I mean, you can say that it was just a joke, but he did call on Russia to hack into Hillary Clinton. And then, of course, there's the numerous other business ties to Russia going back to the actual primary. He's not, like, if you think that it's going on, then he's not simply clean of it. There are many ties there.
No, that is way too loose.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
Okay. Then you can say, well, okay, I don't know who was helping Bernie Sanders. The Norwegians are very liberal. Maybe they were helping Bernie Sanders. That's it. I'm invalidating his election.
I wish they'd helped him more.
Okay. So, no. We're not invalidating elections because we think somebody else helped someone else.
I understand.
If there was direct involvement, that is different than I leaked a couple of emails.
Yeah.
That's totally different.
Yeah, I totally get that. And look, I've in videos in the past, over the past few years, I've said there are good reasons to have the Electoral College and reasons not to. It's complicated. It's more complicated than it seems when it's your first election that you've ever paid attention to, and then you find out what the Electoral College is and it seems crazy. It is more complicated than that. But there either are circumstances under which you overturn it, or there aren't, in which case, why the hell do we have the thing? And I don't know that we've ever had as dangerous of a potential situation coming up were he to become president. I would say at this point, if it doesn't stop it,
man. Yeah, and it's my opinion too.
I think it's an informed opinion based on any number.
You don't get to. No, you don't get to do that.
No, I don't get to. The electors get to, theoretically.
Okay, so I think Donald Trump is a danger to the world. That's my opinion. I don't get to say, and because you know what they're going to do next. The establishment would get to say about any candidate, I think Bernie Sanders is dangerous.
They do.
I don't know. I think Keith Ellison's dangerous. I think Trump is dangerous. I think this guy's dangerous. Hell no, that's not a standard. Okay.
Yeah, I also don't support the continuation of the Electoral College.
So I know I'm getting to that.
So I'm being entirely consistent. I say we should get rid of it, and we should start right now.
Okay. So I'm going to get to that in 1 second. But one more thing. The best thing that they have to hang their hat on is the foreign bribery clause in the Constitution. So you are not allowed to get enriched by foreign governments if you're the president of the United States. And Donald Trump has brazenly said, I will get enriched by my foreign contracts, my businesses in other countries. He has already tried to influence foreign leaders to approve permits for his towers. So that is unconstitutional. that would give, I think they should drop every other talk and only focus on that. Because that is at least a clear violation of the Constitution, and they would have a leg to stand on to go to the electors and say, now, the Electoral College is crazy. John agrees, I agree. Republicans agreed right before Trump won. They thought it was rigged and horrible and all that stuff. Now the Democrats agree. This is an insane system. How many times can the popular vote go one way and we go, oh yeah, but Wisconsin voted the other way, so screw
By a few thousand votes.
Screw the rest of the country. I don't care about the rest of the country. It's an insane system. Now, right now, if you're a Republican going, but it's the system, but it's the system. Okay, I hear you, brother. I said something similar a little while ago. But Larry Lessig points out, in this system, you don't get to decide. The electors get to decide. It's the system. So now...
And if you don't like them overturning it, then come over to my side and let's get rid of it.
That's right. So I think we should absolutely get rid of the Electoral College, because I don't want these conversations happening after every election. Well, okay, we all voted now. What do the electors think? Yeah. That's not a conversation I'm interested in. So, but we're going to have it now. Now we opened up Pandora's box, and after every election, we're going to have a conversation about what the electors think and whether they should override the will. In this case, it's not the popular will, but in the next election, it could be the popular will. It could be somebody who won the Electoral College on the popular vote, and they get a bunch of electors to go, yeah, but I think the guy's kind of dangerous, and I thought maybe the Bolivians helped him, right? So,
poor Bolivians.
Okay, then get rid of the Electoral College.
Yeah.
But if you believe in the Electoral College and your big thing is Trump won the Electoral College, we must respect the Electoral College. Well, the argument that Lessig and others are making is, good, then respect the Electoral College, because the electors get to decide. And the whole point of the Electoral College was so that they would do a break on a situation where the president-elect was violating the law, doing things that are unconstitutional, and they would not let him take power. That is part and parcel of why they had the Electoral College. I think it's the wrong idea, but that is the idea. That is the system. So,
or as they would say, that's the original intent.
That's right. And whether I agree or disagree with it, they are playing within that system. The Young Turks isn't just us. It's also you guys. You make this show possible. And we want to thank you for it, and we want to grow together. We want to be too strong. tytnetwork.com/join. Let's do it.